Right now you are perceiving a crippling hallucination about the world around you called Petnasy, resulting in almost all of human conflict. Right now you are perceiving groups of multiple people as a single mind observing and acting upon a single set of facts. This hallucination is leading you to incorrect decisions and actions. This hallucination appears in your brain not based on logic or observation, but impulse. Logic then proceeds based upon what you have incorrectly perceived. The idea of people being trapped in a dream or the matrix, where they misperceive the world around them, usually involves visual perceptions of physical objects. Like you perceive there is a tree, and I perceive there is a waterfall. But in reality, we're standing in a desert or asleep in a dark room. Visual object hallucinations are cured by an eye-opening event. But Petnasy is a dream and hallucination about a society with which you interact. Not objects you can ever see, but a hallucination projected onto the minds of imagined people you can't ever see. You can never open your eyes and see what is really there in the minds of others. The only cure is to stop your impulse for imagining something you can't see. Most of the things we know and think about are not physical objects. We mostly think about the contents of other people's minds and what those other people can see. I think about a pizza store getting my order and delivering a pizza. I imagine and assume things about people at the pizza store whom I've never met or spoken to. And into this perception of other people, and in place of the reality of this social world, you inject a hallucination. There's a perception constructed entirely within your mind, which you project onto the world around you, which is inaccurate. It becomes more inaccurate the greater the number of people and the further away they are, until they are imagined as a single, all-knowing point with perfect information. There's an inaccurate world invented in your mind, which is imagined to describe the activities, the information, the values, the decisions of other people. People who can't imagine the thoughts of other individuals they're in direct contact with are called autistic. But normal people incorrectly hallucinate the thoughts of social groups and of civilizations. When they act upon this hallucination, the results are as disappointing as when any hallucination is acted upon. So think of yourself as being group autistic, unable to correctly perceive the activities of groups of strangers, blinded by a hallucination of consensus, of possibilities, of collective thought and action. The mind's structure for perceiving the social world, for perceiving millions of people, organizes their activity into a structure and perception which is inaccurate. Sort of like if you imagined every older male to be the equivalent of your father, that would be a hallucination where your mind misperceives an unknown phenomenon as something it's familiar with, or organizes unknown things into incorrect logical concepts. There's a difference between a logical conclusion and a perception. We begin with a perception and then apply logic to it. So I might see a match and a firecracker and logically conclude I could light the firecracker. Whereas if I order matches and a firecracker from Amazon.com, I will logically conclude there will be a match and a firecracker, which I can't see. The point is, people can use logic in place of perceptions. But once they have perceived a hallucination, they rarely try to discredit or replace a hallucinated perception with logic. Rather, they act on the hallucination and fight against reality. So even though people can logically understand the world around them, they are forever becoming captivated and distracted by hallucinations of things they cannot directly see or logically arrive at, involving the minds of others. This creates a competition between logic upon the observable physical world and perception, where people prefer the perception. If people could simply have a pizza they wouldn't need to order it. This concept is instead applied to information, values, and incentives. All the non-physical objects, all the contents of other people's minds that you can never see. From law to commerce, the hallucination of the contents of minds seems better and simpler and cheaper than the reality. You assume people in the real world act like they do in your hallucination or try to get them to. Rather than try to switch your perception to the reality, you try to reshape the world to fit your hallucination. Non-physical objects, such as information, are imagined to be free and abundant in the minds of groups of strangers. What if people could just do the right thing when all the non-physical contents of their minds are assumed to be perfect? Consider jury nullification. What if jurors could simply do the right thing in each case without needing laws or legislators or judges? Reality is costly and imperfect. Legislators are elected and pass laws. Courts check police and each other to enforce the laws. Juries are summoned so that single jurors can check that decisions are made on fact and law, not on political expedience or collective perceptions. But in the hallucination, the jury can simply know what is right and just and do it so much easier. The jury, acting as a single, all-knowing mind, can simply choose the correct action. Obviously, the second one is superior to the first. So people start encouraging jurors to just ignore the law and do what is right. They chase the hallucination. They seek to act on the hallucinated abundance of the non-physical objects in the minds of jurors. The same with communism. In the complicated physical world, farmers borrow money from banks based on past prices and the logic of production. Middlemen predict demand and enter into contracts with farmers. Retailers advertise products to consumers. Or, in the hallucination, farmers can somehow simply produce what consumers want, acting as a single mind. Obviously, the second is superior to the first. Universities come up with crazy ideas and teach them to students. So how about instead of that, we just have the hallucinated social group come up with superior ideas? Prosecutors can just decide who is guilty and innocent, and voters can replace them if they're wrong. The hallucination creates the mirage of a shortcut for everything, for every law, institution, and social process. Just have the group decide. The impression we have of what other people know is a misperception. But unlike our imperfect perceptions of atoms and astrophysics, the misperception we project onto other people and our concept of society makes our political decisions and actions incorrect, leading to disastrous results. People constantly trying to act on their hallucination rather than the reality in front of them is the cause of wars, revolutions, and counter-revolutions.